This is the third video segment for our poster design project, and in this one I'm going to start arranging the type on my layout. So I've been thinking about it, and I want to have the wording on my poster say, where did you sleep last night? And I want to arrange that in this area here. So before I place my text, I want to have a bit of a guideline or structure as to where my fonts are going to begin and end. I have my rulers open, Command R, Control R to open up your rulers. I'm going to go into my left ruler and place a guide about right there. I don't want text coming too close to the edge of my document. There should be a little bit of space between the text and the edge of my document. So now I'm going to go into my character panel. I have my paragraph and character panel bundled together, and I am going to be using the Capture It font, or you can choose whichever font you chose or download it. And because I want my text aligned along the right edge, I'm going to change my alignment here to align right. So I have my font set and I have my alignment set. The size might be too small, but I can always adjust that after I type. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to place my cursor right there on the edge, click and type. Now, if I type it all in one piece, the problem if I do it this way is that I don't get the option to maybe move the last night to a different spot because all of it is in one line. So what I'm going to do so that it gives me control, I'm going to break it apart into different pieces so that I can move different words in different parts of my composition. So I'm going to delete that and do it the correct way. So I'm going to take my type tool, click, and I want to have where did, set that as a type layer. So on my keyboard I can press Command Return to set it as a layer, or you can click on the little check mark at the top. So I'll put that there. T for my type tool, click again. I'm going to type you sleep, and see here I can click the check mark to set the layer, move tool to move it, T again for my type tool, click, last night. So you know me, instead of clicking this check mark, I'm going to press Command Return to set it. Alright, so this way I have my three type layers separated in ways that I can adjust the sizes independently. So I want the you sleep to kind of be my focal point or an area of interest, so I'm going to make that much larger. With type, I can either come in here and kind of size it up that way, or I can choose a size from my drop down menu, or what if my character panel isn't open? I can press Command T to transform, holding the Shift key over the corner, and I can size it up visually. So again, that's Command T on a Mac, Control T on Windows. Hold that Shift key and drag it over the corner. Press Return to set it. And now my text is nice and large. I can go to the where did, size that up. Not as large. Return to set that. And my last night, Command T, Shift key, size that up, return to set it, there. So now I have my text set, and again, because it's separate, I can place my text wherever I want to place it. I have full control over the editing. Now for the color. The black doesn't stand out as much, so I'm going to use white. Usually my choices of colors, I either start with black or with white. If neither of those work, then I try to pull a color from my layout. So I'm going to go with white. So starting with my last night, click here, click on the white here in my color chips. Okay, so at least it gives it a bit more of a pop. Okay, now if I wanted to add information regarding the name of the organization, it is important that your poster include an organization name. So it can either be an actual organization or it can be something that you made up. So I want to make sure that no layer is selected. Deselect layers, nothing is selected. And now when I go centered and click, my text will be centered. Okay, now when I set this, we have a couple of issues here. For one, this font is probably not the best font to use for small text. Certain fonts are good, large, but they don't work well for small. So I'm going to choose a more conservative type for this, perhaps just Helvetica Neue. And make sure my capitalization is on. So the homeless, that should be capital. Tighten up my tracking, and I can make this much smaller. It doesn't have to be as large. Okay. Now, if when I place it down here, notice how it gets lost. You really don't see it as well. Okay. Even if I change it to white, it doesn't stand out as well as I want it to. So here's a little trick. Photoshop has these shape layers. So I'm going to look down here in my tools, and it's right here. It'll start off by saying rectangle tool. Press the letter U and it activates it, and there are a whole bunch of them. Okay, so with my rectangle tool, I'm going to place a rectangle shape layer right down here, like a lower third is what we call it. Okay, and when I do that, I now get a layer that has the color of the layer and the shape of that layer. Hence, it's called a shape layer. So I can change the color of this to whatever I want. But for now, I'm going to leave it at black. And my text, the New York City Coalition for the Homeless, is now behind it. Switch my layers, put it at the top. And now that area stands out more. Not as much as the "Where did you sleep last night?" because I want it to be larger, but it stands out at the bottom. Now I don't want it to cover his feet, so I'm going to do a little bit of adjusting here and move that up just a little bit. Take my shape layer, move that down a little bit. Okay. Now, if the black is too strong, let's say it might be too strong, perhaps I want to tone down the black. I have some really nice dark shades here within the composition. So I can double click my shape layer. That's the color of the shape layer. That's the color right there. If I double click it, it opens up my color picker. Now I can choose a color from inside my color picker, but more than likely it's not going to match. Or I can keep my color picker open and sample a color from within the layout. So there's some really nice dark tones perhaps down here. Okay, and it's dark enough that it allows my text to stand out, good contrast, but then it's not as intense as a rich black. Okay, so here I have my New York City Coalition for the Homeless, and I'm going to add their website and a 1-800 number. So I'm going to go online and get that information. So here's their website. I can grab their URL, go back into Photoshop. I'm going to put this as a separate type layer. Again, I'm separating all my text so I have most control over it. So click and paste. Clearly, it doesn't need to be that large. We don't even need the HTTP because we know it's a website. Just a www is fine. I'm going to make that much smaller. And that way I can position that, if I want to maybe do it here, there, and there. I don't need that end slash.